Support for Pop of Culture comes from Stallings Wealth Management. Daniel Stallings, financial advisor. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC, a broker/dealer, and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
This week on Pop of Culture, we get all C's.
We catch up with Curtis L. Crisler, Indiana's Poet Laureate.
What is the Indiana Chitlin Circuit? Why are you talking chitlins? You know, and it's like, well, we'll break it down for you.
We'll converse with the cast of Ball State's production of Cats.
And we'll hear our latest story behind the song.
That's an S.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you know what does start with C? Coming up.
Support for Pop of Culture comes from Stallings Wealth Management, the Innovation Connector, and from you. With state and federal money eliminated, you are the difference in keeping local programming on the air at IPR. Become a member today at indianapublicradio.org.
From IPR, this is Pop of Culture. I'm Kara Duquette.
And I'm Michelle Kinsey. If you're a regular pop listener, you've heard Indiana's Poet Laureate, Curtis Crisler, before.
He's been selected for a second term as the state's Poet Laureate, and he was on Ball State's campus recently, so we asked him to come into the IPR studios for an update. Curtis, thank you so much for making the time.
Oh, thank you for having me, Kara. I love being here.
Excellent. Well, I know how the Indiana's Poet Laureate is selected by a committee through the Indiana Arts Commission. But you've been selected for 2 consecutive terms. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. And for those of us who aren't exactly sure, will you share with us what does a Poet Laureate do?
We spread poetry throughout Indiana. Basically looking to address creative endeavors throughout the state and helping people understand what poetry is all about. So I'm all around Northwest, South, all parts of Indiana, trying to connect with them through what I call the Pop-Up Indiana Chitlin Circuit, which is this thing from my urban Midwestern sensibilities aspect of how Black people have come to the Midwest. So it's been working really well. And so I think that's why I got the second term.
Excellent. Well, I love the idea of spreading poetry throughout Indiana. And I know you've reimagined Indiana's Chitlin Circuit.
Yes.
And so can you take a minute to tell us what chitlins are for people who don't know, and also what the Indiana Chitlin Circuit was now and your reimagining of it today?
So the chitlins are the intestine of the pig. And in slavery, slaves were giving the leftovers of what the masters and stuff ate. So most of the stuff they got were the guts and things of that nature. And somehow it became this thing where they used it, and now it's one of those things where you put your hot sauce on it and all that kind of stuff. They really stink when you're cooking them, but it became a delicacy in a sense, and it's part of a soul food thing. So the Chitlin Circuit happened it's kind of like the Green Book, where for Blacks to be safe, there are places on the map that, there's a book for them, and go to this house, go to this person, that kind of thing. And so the Chitlin Circuit is where the juke joints and stuff were, the after-hour joints. So what they would do is they would have a circuit, and people would come on the circuit, and they fed you chitlins and things of that nature, soul food. They paid you a little money. They let you sell your wares if you had a record out or something like that. Then you jammed with them. You would do solos. You would jam with the host and stuff like that. They might put you up for the night, and then you went to the next stop in the circuit. And so this was before people started getting big and going to Carnegie Hall and things like that. So when they were going to Carnegie Hall and stuff like that, the Chitlin Circuit got turned on itself and got a bad rep. And people are like, you doing that Chitlin Circuit? But when it started out, that was all we had. So what I did was do this with poetry. You can do it with just 3 poets, and we have a round robin where each person feeds off of the. We feed off of the first person. The first person sets the tone. They read a poem, and the other 2 are feeding off of it. And we're just going to the mic for 20 minutes off of what that first person did. So you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of upsetting for a lot of poets because we're like musicians. We come with a set list. We're going to read this, this, and this. That blows that to hell. So, but it's fun. But the people who are really anal retentive, it's kind of harder for them. Until they do it, they don't understand it. So it's that. Then we have the second set, which is each of us do a solo, a 10-minute solo. And then the third set, we read a poem line by line, each person reading a line until we get to the end and we read the line together. And the food would be like whatever the local fare is. So some people have aspects of food trucks and things like that. So the whole thing like that is the big culmination of it. Food, entertainment, and music, and bringing it together. And so I didn't want it to be, oh, it's the Indiana Poet Laureate and he's coming to Ball State and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, yeah, but you have poets there, and I want you to know you have poets there. So when I leave, I left with everything. So when I come, some people don't know that the other 2 poets that I'm doing this with are there. And then, oh, we got poets here too. And then the scene opens up. So I'm just trying to build it up so that it's like what the Chitlin Circuit was at the beginning.
Well, it's pretty great that you're calling back to that community building time and reimagining it for poetry. I actually had the pleasure of being at one of your Chitlin Circuit events 2 Octobers ago. And it was in a backyard of Cole Smith and Emma Dregu.
Yes, yes.
And it was a magical evening.
Yeah.
What you were saying about the round robin, pretty great. Like, you did a poem and that inspires the next person's poem. And
this has been something, I didn't know how this was going to go. People were like, what is the Indiana Chitlin Circuit? Why are you talking chitlins? You know, and it's like, well, we'll break it down for you. But once, like you said, once you see, you have to see it. And if you're a participant in it, you have to be a participant in it to understand what it is. And the thing is, you just have to have enough material. You have to have enough material for the round robin, but then you're going to do a 10-minute individual set. So, so some people come in and they're like, this is my 10-minute set and I'll just use, and they're using something for them from their 10-minute set in the round robin because of the poems, the way they go. So that's what's so crazy about it.
You talked a little bit about how it feels. Can you talk a little bit more about how it feels to be a part of this? You referred to it as magical round robin experience as a poet.
I'm kind of a person in the sense that nothing happens until it happens. I wait for it to happen. So I'm not like putting myself too far ahead of the cart or behind the cart. I'm just going to roll with it. And then when we get there, we're going to see how it goes. And each one is different. Well, you could do the same round robin with the same 3 people, and each time is going to be different because the poem that first person does sets off everything, and you don't know where you're going to go with that. I love that. I love that, and I love seeing their faces when they're getting it, when they're in it. And we've been all over Indiana, and you have country folk, city folk, urban folk, farmers. It's just, it's amazing to see how people feel after this, especially the people, I don't like poetry. I thought poetry had to rhyme. I thought poetry had to be this. It's like, well, poetry can rhyme. There are rhyming poems. But for the most part, it doesn't. You're playing on the 5 sensory attributes and the figurative language of things. Metaphor.
So talk about the 5 sensory attributes a little bit.
Just smelling, touching, hearing, tasting, those auditory things. So if I say, I always tell my students, if I ask what is love, we're going to have 15 different people say love is this. But if I say love is Sunday afternoon, back porch, grandma's peach cobbler, and vanilla bean ice cream melting in the sun. You may hate peach cobbler, but if you like pie or you like cake, you can replace that and fill that in. So those 5 sensory attributes get you next to the person, and you can put them in that space.
Love is supporting Indiana Public Radio and a poet's words. That's what we might say during the Love Fest.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. You got the Love Fest going on. Exactly.
Well, I really would like you to talk a little bit about your synastic poetry, since you pioneered this expression.
So a synastic is taking a persona poem and an ekphrastic poem and putting them together, where you're taking on the embodiment of the narrator. Sometimes everybody thinks that we're the narrator, but the I is not necessarily us. Most of the time, it is, but it's not. We can be talking from the perspective of someone feeling like this. And you can do your grandfather, you could do an actor or a singer or something like that. And then an ekphrastic is when you see a picture and you write a poem to that picture.
Like a painting or a
painting, photograph. Yeah, like Ode to a Grecian Urn, that kind of thing. And you're giving life to that painting. So I put those together, and my thing is you're able to do this with anything. I'm doing it with Stevie Wonder. You could do it for the radio station. You could do it, I can be David Letterman. And the thing is to put myself in his position. We know the things that he's done. So putting yourself in his position at that time and trying to give credence to what he's addressing at that time through his sensibility. So the personification is me being David, and the ekphrastic is me addressing what he's doing and putting those together. So you're marrying those two, and the research is finding out as much as you can about who you're talking about. And I think with Stevie Wonder, I just looked in my CD collection and album collection and just read the what is it called?
The liner notes.
The liner notes and stuff like that.
Stevie's given us.
Yeah, and Stevie's been around since, so what happened was Michael Jackson died. And for some reason I said, no one's written anything about Stevie. And in doing that, I realized that Michael and Stevie and Motown were the soundtrack of my life. Mm-hmm. There had not been a day in my life Motown was not there. So I had to write something about Stevie, and then all the synastic stuff came.
Well, can I be so bold as to ask you to share one short poem with us? That would be...
So this is called Aisha Life, and I'll read it first and then I'll tell you where it comes from. Aisha Life. I lightly placed my daughter down in a song, just like two before me placed their son down in a manger. It is all so tiresome. But sometimes a child must rest her head, her eyes, before she masters this bout, this love.
Beautiful.
And if you ever heard Isn't She Lovely, this is where it's going. Life is Aisha, the meaning of her name. I can't believe what God,
Oh, yeah. So, it came to mind as you were reading.
Exactly. And so it's trying to capture where they are in that moment and bring it out,
Well, thank you so much, Curtis.
Thank you for having me.
I very much appreciate you talking to us today. Curtis L. Crisler is Indiana's Poet Laureate through 2028. He was born and raised in Gary, Indiana, and is currently a professor of English at Purdue University, Fort Wayne. Every month during First Thursday in downtown Muncie, visitors can catch the Songwriter Sessions, a singer-songwriter showcase billed as an intentional listening opportunity. It lets songwriters share the meaning behind their words, and it exposes listeners to local talent.
We're bringing you part of one of those sessions in our segment, Story Behind the Song, recorded live exclusively for IPR. This month, we have lifelong musician Annette Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Annette Miller. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, so I never do original songs, like ever. But I write lots of them. So whenever I'm out and about, numerous relatives make me sing their song. I actually wrote this song when I lived in Arizona. I'm from Indiana originally. So I wrote this song, I lived in Arizona, but I'm from Fortville, Indiana. We lived just outside that town line, and I was fortunate enough to live across the street from a very nice old couple that I spent a lot of time with. Just ride my bike down the lane and that kind of thing. But it's called Wall to Wall. It'll bring a tear to a glass eye if you're hanging on the words, just in case you're listening to the words or anything. Just saying. She sat swinging on the front porch of her Indiana farm, just outside the Fortville town line. There's a pillow there beside her where he used to be. They'd sit here together each night. There's a pipe in on the table by a worn John Deere cab, and there are pictures down every hole. Though she longs to be with him, she knows she's not alone. He's with her here now, wall to wall. Wall to wall, his memory surrounds her. Wall to wall, no, he's not really gone. When she gets feeling lonely, she won't shed a tear. She knows he's here, wall to wall. She invites friends and neighbors for dinner each day. No, she's never cooked dinner for one. It's that lingering smell of tobacco and mint that somehow keeps her going on. There are clothes in the closet she'll never take down, though his only good suit is now gone. Though she gets feeling lonely, she just has to look round, and he's with her again, wall to wall. Wall to wall, his memory surrounds her. Wall to wall, no, he's not really gone. When she gets feeling lonely, she won't shed a tear. She knows he's Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Annette Miller with their original song, Wall to Wall. Now here they are with Not My First Time in Love with You.
And I might say that the inspiration behind this song came, I was in a bar. You guys, there was this guy singing in a bar, and he was singing all these songs. It was like he was singing all this meat. He was talking about meat. And the punchline was, and I'm walking out the door, and he's singing about, it's not my first time at the barbecue. And I was like, what the holy heck? But I misheard it the first time, and I went, did he say, it's not my first time in love with you? And then it pretty much wrote itself before I even got to the parking lot. And it's nothing like the other one. Gleam in your eye gets me right from the start. That familiar old smile on your face warms my heart, makes me forget what we're doing apart. But it's not my first time in love with you. You say that she's left and you're coming back home to build back the family you left here alone. Why don't I believe you'll be staying here long? It's not my first time in love with you. It's not the first time she's left and you've come back to me, and I've welcomed you back in my heart, and it won't be the last time you'll come back. You'll see our love just grows stronger apart. I wish I could come to my senses before you tire of my kisses and leave me once more. But you'll miss me and come back to my open door. It's not my first time in love with you. It's not my first time in love with you. No, it's not my first time in love with you. Thank you. Kind of a doormat of a girl song right there.
That was Not My First Time in Love with You by musician and radio DJ Annette Miller.
Story behind the song comes from the Songwriter Sessions, created by The Fierce and produced by Josh Eisenhart. Full disclosure, I'm a member of The Fierce and the host of the sessions. Ball State Theater and Dance is producing the iconic musical Cats for one weekend only.
We are in the IPR studios talking with Vivian VerHulst and Avery Nienhuis. Vivian will be playing Grizabella and Avery will be playing Rum Tum Tugger. And I want to ask, what was your reaction when you first got cast? Whoever wants to go first.
The audition process was a special one. We have a terrific team who are very professional, and to be in that room is... I'm so grateful for. It's a gift, honestly. And so being in that callback room was a great gift, and I was terrified because they treated it like a professional audition.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love cats, like the species, you know? So the idea of this feels like, this sounds a little silly, but it feels like a spiritual thing for me too, you know? And I probably could not have played this. I know I could not have played this role without the training that I've gotten from Ball State too. So it just felt like a really good full circle moment of like, wow, like I get to do this and I feel spiritually connected to it. And yeah, so super grateful and shocked.
Excellent.
No, I definitely less of a connection to cats as a species, but definitely.
Really?
I'm
no,
weird.
I've just always been a dog
sorry.
person. But
That's
I
fair.
mean,
That's
now
fine.
I mean,
Embarrassing,
I'm
actually.
basically living with a cat, and they're great. I love
True.
cats.
It's true.
But definitely more of a. I grew up on Cats, the musical. There's a pro shot, and like
What's a pro shot?
So a pro shot is basically just like a movie of a live performance.
Oh, okay.
And so it's not quite the same thing of like what we
Yeah.
do, but it still gives you an essence. And so like there are a few from my childhood that I remember of like Phantom of the Opera, Joseph and Technicolor Dreamcoat, of just like pro shot / movies that like my mom would show me that like definitely led me towards theater and a career of performance. And Cats was one of them. Even though it terrified me as a child. 'Cause if you
scary.
come see the show and it's
Yeah.
Scary.
it's kind of intimidating. But Rum Tum Tugger was definitely such a character and a very magnetic presence, I would say. That just like getting the opportunity to kind of recreate that character from my childhood was just an awesome opportunity. And that's something I've discovered now through the rehearsal process of like, wow, I really connected to this as a child and just enjoyed this so much. And now like getting to recreate that and bring it to life has been so fun. And that's just, I was ecstatic when I saw.
Well, how did you develop your character? Was it totally based on this pro shot or?
There's a lot of that. It's kind of one of the difficult things about theater and just creating a lot of things constantly. Like different theaters are doing the shows over and over. Broadway is constantly reviving places. So like you have to be able to create that character without just copy pasting of what other people have done.
Yeah.
And that's a common trap that I think a lot of us fall into of like, and that's how a lot of people learn. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just mimicry
Right.
of seeing what other people do and being like, I want to do that, so I will do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So there is an element of that of just like watching and recreating, but there's
Yeah.
also
Bringing yourself to the
bringing
role.
yourself is a
as well.
huge part of
A
it.
huge thing
Yeah,
at Ball State is like we don't do like museum theater, and I think that should be a huge thing everywhere, because why would you like want to see the same thing twice, And I think also when taking on a character, like it will inherently be different because you are different, and that's a beautiful thing.
But I mean, there's a lot of different elements of that, of like finding what you know and bringing into it. And that is so beautiful. Rum Tum Tugger is very much based off of a kind of a lot of like 80s pop rock icons. So we were looking, even in the costume design, we're looking at Freddie Mercury, David Bowie. A big thing that we emphasize a lot, one of our professors, Veronica Santoyo, we take a movement class with her of like really learning how to use your body and kind of articulate a lot of story through body movement.
Yeah.
And so like kind of figuring out, how does my character walk through the space?
Yeah.
How are they perceived? How would I pick up this item, but then how would my character pick up this item?
Well, the funny thing is we all had to kind of fill out like a character form, if that makes sense. And actually Avery and I were together when the form came out.
we were driving home.
back to Michigan because we're both from Michigan.
Okay.
And so the form came out, and so we were like, okay, looking at these questions, and something just like hit me. I was like, okay, if the show is set in 1930s London, our production of it in a theater, I started doing some research on, okay, if, it's Grizabella is the glamour cat, and what does that mean? And to me, that meant like, oh, she was a performer. And like, I started researching like British actresses, and I came across Vivian Lee, who's actually the actress that I was named after. So a lot of like my interpretation of Grizabella like comes from the inspiration of Vivian Lee, the actress. So yeah, and it feels like a personal thing as well. And she's a queen, so I love it.
What did you find most challenging, or have you found most challenging about preparing for the role?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's the most challenging thing is just the pressure of it all, like I mean, that's like the song that a lot of people know from the show, and also a lot of my story
they know nothing
happens,
else.
right?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of my story actually happens off stage, and so like as an actor, I think I've been really practicing how to like find that arc within my 15 minutes of stage time, and with going in with a really big intention every time I walk on that stage, it has to be within my arc and move forward. It can't be the same thing every time. So I think like preparing the character and watching it go on a journey has been like the thing that I've focused on the most.
Excellent. And we were referring to Memories, the song.
Yeah.
That's maybe the one thing that you know about Cats, if nothing else.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Avery, so I'm curious, what has been the most fun thing that you've done when you've been developing Rum Tum Tugger and the Rockstar Cat? Because I know Cats is more character driven than anything else. So.
Well, I'm glad you feel that, because it's a very common understanding from a lot of people of like, oh, Cats is just spectacle. Cats is just dance. And like that's
what's the story?
There's
I don't
so
know.
many people who still today very much believe that. But our director and choreographer, Anne Beck, who is
Brilliant.
queen and just all things Cats and has done it for so many, is very focused on the character of it. And she's very emphasizing on, we want them to be able to take a story from it. Yeah. Not just great dancing and singing, which there will be. I'm not.
Yeah. So you're both triple threats. I saw a little pat right there.
That's what we're training to be here for. Yes.
Of course. Yes. It's been, I know you kind of asked me what's been the most fun part, and that's kind of a double-edged sword. The most fun has also been the most difficult for me is the choreography. I've come a long way in my dance ability, but I'm still a long way to go. And this Cats is very much not necessarily in my wheelhouse. And it's pushed me so much, not only just to like getting steps, but like we said, portraying story through movement. Cause I mean, a very common phrase in theater is, you start to sing because the emotions are too overwhelming to talk, and then you start to dance because the emotions are too overwhelming to sing. And so it's kind of that idea of just like, we dance for more of a reason than just to dance. Yeah. And so figuring out how to articulate all of that emotion and bring all of that into the movement, and then also being able to keep that up every night. So.
Did either one of you find any hidden talents as you were preparing?
Oh. A lot of the times when I watch Cats, like when I watch other like Grizabellas or whatever, like she stands a lot of the show and she does whatever. And like, I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to explore what that like, sounds weird, but what that crawling feels like. And like, this whole idea of like what the feeling of like what she used to be and how she like still believes that she can be that, you know? Oh, yeah. And I think I've had a really fun time with like eye movements and like connection. I think I found like a secret talent in just like cat-isms. I don't know if that makes sense. Like when I like, it sounds so silly. No. But like when I like,
I mean, not to me. I mean,
but me either. I'm on board.
I think because I love cats and I just feel like they're like my spiritual animal and they've always been like my guardian angels my whole life. I just feel like when I'm able to connect with that, it's like a little secret hidden talent that like I've found of like, oh, I feel comfortable in this space. Like I understand them and they understand me.
That's a little jewel we can look for when we go to see it.
Please do.
And where can we see Cats? Your
Emens Auditorium. Yes.
What day?
March 20th through the 22nd.
Yes.
And is there anything else you wanted to tell us about Cats?
Leave your preconceived notions at the door.
I agree.
Nice.
There's so much more to take away from Cats than just singing, dancing,
there is.
And cats.
Yeah. It's a story of redemption and hope and forgiveness. Yeah. And I think our production does a really wonderful job with that.
Well, thank you both so much for talking to us today.
Yeah.
We've been speaking with Vivian VerHulst and Avery Nienhuis. They are Grizabella and Rum Tum Tugger, respectively. And they're going to be in the upcoming performance of Ball State's theater and dance, Cats. I'm Kara Duquette.
And I'm Michelle Kinsey. If you need something to entertain your cats, how about local arts and culture coverage? Paw your way over to the Pop of Culture podcast on indianapublicradio.org, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This week for What Are You Working On, we're going to listen back to an uplifting interview with balloon artist Samantha Rowe. Here's our co-host, Maya Doss.
Today on Weiwo, I have Samantha Rowe, a balloon artist who owns Blank Space Balloon Art in Modoc, Indiana. What are you working on, Samantha?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course.
So right now we are planning graduation open houses for people. I've got some Valentine's Day specials.
So sweet.
So I made a bouquet out of heart balloons. If you can imagine flowers in a bouquet, but switch the flowers out with heart balloons.
That's adorable.
I added little butterflies in one of them, and they're kind of wrapped in floral paper. We're also doing some senior night options for people. So it's just a small little stack of balloons on top of each other with a basketball, for example. I have the cutest little foil number balloons that go on the basketballs just to add a little pop to the senior night tables. Virtually anything that anybody asks me to do, I am 100% up for the challenge of making new things and creating art out of balloons.
That's awesome to hear that you're willing to push yourself and expand new horizons with balloon art.
Yes.
Balloon sculpture is your specialty. What is your favorite sculpture you've ever made?
Oh my goodness. So the hair salon that I go to, their name is Deep Roots Salon. And my mom was like, it would be really cool if you figured out how to make a tree out of balloons.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't know if I can do that, but we'll see. So I did. So she recently celebrated a big milestone in her business. And so I made a tree out of balloons. I would say that was my first time actually sculpting something. And then from there, it kind of took off. So since that point, I've made a palm tree. I made a giant diamond ring, which was one of my favorites. The biggest one that we just wrapped up last November was an Eiffel Tower with a water fountain in front of the Eiffel Tower, and then we had street lights that were around the room. It was incredible.
Was that a project that made you feel really proud of being a balloon artist?
Yes. It was something that challenged me. It was something, when the organization came to me and asked if I could do it, I was like, yes, I will figure it out. What started small in my head ended up being about 15 feet tall.
Wow. So really, the Eiffel Tower.
Yes, it was much bigger than I imagined it would be, but it also needed to fill the space in the room. So I was very happy with how it turned out.
That's amazing. What would you say were some challenges you faced while trying to do something so large?
I think figuring out the framework is maybe not my strong suit. So I have family that help me. So my dad helps me transport, especially with the Eiffel Tower. I took my idea to my husband, and he can basically weld anything that I want. So he was like, okay, let me think about this. And he built my frame bigger than I needed it to be, but it ended up working out because then I could just wrap the frame with the balloons. And once I got going and figured out my method, then it's super quick in my mind for somebody that works with balloons all the time. Now, if somebody that didn't work with balloons, they would be like, no, thank you. But it's an art, definitely, and it's a learning curve because you have to have the right balloons and you have to have them inflated to the right amount. So, if they overinflate, they'll pop.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to underinflate everything to give room for expansion. So I've definitely learned a lot of things along the way that I did not know before.
So when it comes to installing such a large sculpture, do you bring in the base and then you build it there, or do you transport it with the balloons on it?
Kind of both. So if I can transport everything made ahead of time, I try to do that as much as possible just because it saves me time on site. So the Eiffel Tower, for example, I had 4 separate legs, and then I had a top. So I had 5 pieces. So I had my top completely ready to go. I had my legs maybe 75% of the way prepped. So all I had to do when I got there was assemble. And then I was able to finish it once it was assembled.
That's really cool. It's something that I've really never heard about before. So when I saw your website and saw the huge Eiffel Tower, I was like, wow, she means business.
Yes. I don't do anything halfway. I like to go above and beyond for people because I don't want them to be disappointed. I like setting that up and then going and getting them and being like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready for you to see it, because I want to step back and watch their reaction
right
to what I've promised.
That's really cool. I've also seen that you do things like arches, tabletops, and you mentioned your senior stacks. How do you decide how to arrange the balloons, what colors to use?
I work with the customer, first of all, and I ask them, what are your preferences? Do you have color choices? Do you have ideas that you've liked? And I have them send me those ideas. Some people will say, here's what I've seen, and I'll kind of mock something up so they have some sort of visual before they see the final product. Other people will say, you know what, I don't care. Here's the theme. I trust you. Do what you want with it.
I bet that's fun.
I love those because then I get to play. And I'm blessed. I work out of my home, so I'm very blessed that we have a full basement that has kind of turned into my studio.
Oh, nice.
So I can just go downstairs anytime, and I like to call it therapy because it has kind of turned into therapy. But I just play with balloons and I figure things out. It took me a couple of days to figure out how to do the balloon fountain. So that was trial and error a few different times, but I'm fortunate enough that I can do that and not mess it up the first time.
What led you to making with balloons in the first place? I'm curious.
Oh my goodness. So it was kind of by accident. I have one daughter and I always have gone over the top for her birthdays. And so she was turning 16. We're big Taylor Swift fans in our house, so we did an Eras Tour birthday party.
Oh, nice.
And I got this wild idea. I was like, let's make a balloon arch. Never done it before. Ordered the cheapest stuff. It took me 3 days to build half an arch. And I was like, this is wild. Why did I decide to do this? Well, then people came over and they loved it.
I'm sure.
And then my neighbor was like, hey, that's amazing. If I order the supplies, will you do my graduation open house? Because she was graduating that year. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So we did that. I posted a picture on my Facebook and it kind of just went wild from there. People started messaging me. They were like, hey, we don't like working with balloons. We would seriously pay you to do this for us. And I was like, okay, could I do this as like a thing, as a side hustle? And it's kind of expanded from there. I've been able to meet so many people, been able to create so many things, bring so much happiness and, really up people's photos when they're taking them and they fall in love with their backdrops and those memories. It just kind of has spiraled.
I think that's really touching, like the way you've made it kind of a community support as well. So what I'm hearing is balloons are your love language.
Kind of, yes.
What's a balloon sculpture you would love to build in the future? Like, do you have a dream sculpture you'd like to make?
A rainbow.
Oh, that's so cute. I would love to see that.
I keep seeing them. That's something I have been wanting to try to make. I've also a birthday cake. A giant birthday cake is also something that I want to try to make.
Would you make it with like a slice out of it, or would you make it like a decor?
I would make a decor, like a 3-tiered.
Wow, yes.
3-tiered birthday cake, maybe even with a hole in the middle for somebody to jump out of.
That would be fun.
Yes.
And like
yes.
it has a little top.
Yes.
Where could listeners find your balloon art if they wanted to check it out themselves?
So I am on Facebook. If you go to Facebook and you search for blank space balloon art, my business page should pop up. I also have an email that's blankspaceballoonart@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. I've been so happy to have you pop up on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Michelle, it's time for the arts calendar.
It is. First, we're going to talk about something that's very important.
Yes. Minnetrista Museum and Gardens will present Shared Stories, Legacy, and Community with Joshua Harris Till at 1 p.m. Sunday, March 15th. Harris Till will lead a community conversation connected to the current Minnetrista exhibition, Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley. Let the world see. As a cousin of Emmett Till, Joshua brings a deeply personal lens to the history and its continued relevance today. To hear more about the exhibit, check out episode 4 of this season of Pop of Culture.
Okay, last week we promised some St. Patrick's Day shenanigans.
Ooh,
So here we go. On Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, Prairie Creek Sirens will perform at the Guardian Brewing Company in downtown Muncie. The Sirens bring out the best jigs each year, and this year is no exception. The music begins at 6.
Muncie St. Patrick's Day Parade is 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 17th. The parade route will travel down Walnut Street, downtown, go round the roundabout, and head back down Mulberry Street.
I'm ready for the candy. Newcastle Main Street, in partnership with Indiana on Tap, will present the 5th annual Newcastle on Tap St. Patty's Day Festival on March 14th at the Arts Park Pavilion. You gotta be 21 or older for this party, my friends. If you're looking for some fitness, the St. Patty's Day 5K is Saturday, March 14th at Summit Lake State Park in Newcastle.
That is an interesting St. Patty's choice. That's great.
Got to
Love
get
it.
that fitness in when you can.
Heck yeah, you can do multiple things.
Yes.
Gas City Performing Arts Center is having a Celtic Magic St. Patrick's Day party on Tuesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. Join magician Daniel Greenwolf for an evening of Celtic magic, interactive comedy, and thrilling danger?
Thrilling danger. I mean, that's what it said.
I don't know.
It said thrilling danger. And now I'm like, what?
I'm a little afraid
Do
to
I
find out what
need to
that
go
is.
and see what this thrilling danger is? I think I do. The Phil Collins Experience is performing Friday, March 13th at Anderson's Paramount Theater. Against all odds, the music begins at 7:30 p.m. Chirp Up is Friday and Saturday, March 13th and 14th at Ball State. The annual Improv Comedy Festival features more than 11 college and professional troupes from across the Midwest. The kickoff show is 7 p.m. Friday in the Arts and Journalism Auditorium. The big show is 7 p.m. Saturday at Bruce Hall. That's a lot of suggestions from the audience, isn't it?
Yes.
I need a place. I need a food. I need a...
We also take suggestions from the audience. Send us your events. Go to indianapublicradio.org/contact. Then click Pop of Culture.
Support for Pop of Culture comes from Stallings Wealth Management, the Innovation Connector, and from you. With state and federal money eliminated, you are the difference in keeping local programming on the air at IPR. Become a member today at indianapublicradio.org.
And that's our show. Our digital content god is August Wilde.
This week was produced by Luke Jones, who, sorry cats, is a dog person.
We had production assistance from Andrew Montavon.
Our audio fellow is Maya Doss. Our show was hosted by me, Michelle Kinsey.
And me, Kara Duquette, who loves cats and dogs.
Love it.
Pop of Culture is a production from IPR on the campus of Ball State University.
It was so good. It was so good.
Send us your events and go to indianapublicradio.org/contact, then click Pop of Culture for sharing your ideas with us.
Okay, try that again.
You think?